7 chilling stories of celebrities killed by their own fans. The dark side of fame. Welcome to Odd Occasions, where we dig deep into the bizarre, the tragic, and the truly unexpected stories hidden in the shadows of fame. Today, we're uncovering 7 chilling tales of celebrities whose lives were cut short by the very people who once idolized them. They say there's a thin line between love and hate, and today we'll see just how terrifyingly thin that line can be. Number 7. Jesse James. Jesse James, the infamous outlaw of the Wild West. Known for his daring train and bank robberies, Jesse became a folk hero, with many seeing him as a symbol of rebellion and even a kind of American Robin Hood. Alongside his brother Frank, Jesse led the James Gang, who quickly became infamous throughout the country. Despite his violent reputation, Jesse was admired, even romanticized, by the public. One of those admirers was Robert "Bob" Ford, a young man who saw Jesse as a hero. Ford and his brother Charles eventually joined the James Gang after a robbery left the group needing more recruits. But things turned dark when Bob got himself in trouble with the law after a deadly altercation. Seeing an opportunity, authorities made Bob an offer. If he could bring them Jesse James, dead or alive, they'd grant him a full pardon and reward. So, on April 3rd, 1882, Bob Ford and his brother were at Jesse's home, pretending to discuss their next move. As Jesse turned his back to fix a crooked picture on the wall, Bob saw his chance. He raised his gun and shot Jesse in the back, killing him instantly. Jesse James was just 34. The public was outraged, branding Ford a coward for killing a man he claimed to admire. Although he collected part of the reward, Ford was never able to escape his shame. His life spiraled, and 10 years later, Bob Ford was shot and killed by another man seeking his own moment of fame. The man who killed Jesse James. Number 6. Selena Quintanilla Perez. Selena Quintanilla Perez, a bright rising star and a beloved cultural icon. Known to her fans simply as Selena, she was more than a singer. She was a trailblazer, a role model, and a vibrant symbol of Mexican-American identity. Born in Texas to a family with deep musical roots, Selena quickly found herself at the center of the Tejano music scene, bringing a unique blend of Mexican and American sounds that captivated audiences on both sides of the border. Her powerful voice, combined with her down-to-earth personality, earned her the affectionate nickname, the Mexican-American Madonna. Her fame grew quickly, first in Mexico and soon across the United States. With each new hit, her influence expanded, reaching listeners from all walks of life. But it wasn't just her music that made Selena iconic. She had a unique fashion sense and an electrifying stage presence. She also became a successful entrepreneur with her own clothing line and boutique. It seemed like nothing could stand in the way of her meteoric rise. One of her most devoted fans was Yolanda Saldivar. Yolanda was more than just an admirer. She managed Selena's fan club and even helped run her boutique stores. Yolanda had worked her way into Selena's life, becoming close with her family and earning their trust. But that trust would soon be shattered. Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, began to suspect that Yolanda was stealing money from the boutique. Financial discrepancies emerged, and Yolanda was fired from her role just weeks before that fateful day. Despite the accusations, Selena was willing to give Yolanda the chance to explain herself. On March 31, 1995, 2 weeks before Selena's 24th birthday, she agreed to meet Yolanda at a motel in Corpus Christi, Texas. It was meant to be a straightforward meeting. a way to settle matters and retrieve important financial records that Yolanda had taken. But things took a dark, unexpected turn. During their confrontation, Yolanda pulled a gun and shot Selena in the back. Bleeding heavily, Selena managed to stumble to the motel lobby, leaving a trail behind her. She collapsed, and by the time paramedics arrived, she was gravely wounded. Selena was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, she was pronounced dead just an hour later. She was only 23, with so much life and talent still ahead of her. Meanwhile, Yolanda sat in her red pickup truck in the motel parking lot, holding the same gun she'd used on Selena. A 9-hour standoff with the police followed, as Yolanda threatened to take her own life. Finally, after hours of tense negotiation, she surrendered. She was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison, with her actions forever leaving a void in the world of Latin music and the hearts of her fans. Selena's death left an indelible mark. She was on the verge of international stardom, having just completed her first English-language album, a project that would have introduced her to an even broader audience. In her brief life, Selena Quintanilla Perez had already achieved so much, inspiring generations with her talent, warmth, and groundbreaking success. Her legacy endures. Her voice, her spirit, and the impact she made continue to resonate deeply within the hearts of her fans. Number 5. Dimebag, Darrell Abbott. Darrell "Dimebag" Abbott, an electric presence in heavy metal, known for his fierce guitar riffs and unforgettable stage energy. As the guitarist for Pantera, Dimebag became a legend in the world of metal, creating groundbreaking music that captured the intensity and rebellious spirit of a generation. By the 1990s, Pantera had reached the peak of their success, releasing hit albums and filling arenas around the world. But in 2003, tensions within the band led to a painful split. While Pantera's legacy continued, Dimebag and his brother, drummer Vinnie Paul, decided to start fresh with a new band, Damageplan. The band quickly gained a following, and Dimebag remained as passionate about performing as ever. But this new beginning would be cut tragically short on December 8, 2004, during a concert in Columbus, Ohio. In the audience that night was a former Marine named Nathan Gale. Gale had been an intense Pantera fan, and according to friends, he'd developed an unsettling obsession with the band, particularly with Dimebag. He allegedly blamed Dimebag for Pantera's breakup, harboring a twisted belief that his idol was responsible for taking away something he loved. Friends recalled Gale making odd accusations, claiming the band had stolen his songs, and even speaking of plans to sue them. Those who knew him described him as off his rocker, and he was known to tell bizarre stories about his time in the Marines, which he'd reportedly left due to mental health issues. That night, Gale waited outside the venue, telling employees he was waiting for Damageplan. After he was asked to leave, he scaled a 6-foot fence, entered the club, and made his way toward the stage. Damageplan had just started their set, the crowd was alive, the music was blaring, and then chaos erupted. Gale rushed the stage and fired at Dimebag from point-blank range, hitting him 6 times. Eyewitnesses later recalled hearing him shout, "You broke up Pantera," as he pulled the trigger. The horror didn't stop there. Gale fired into the crowd, killing 2 fans and wounding others in the confusion and terror that followed. A police officer, who had quickly arrived on the scene, made his way backstage, where he found Gale holding another man at gunpoint. With lives hanging in the balance, the officer took a single shot, killing Gale instantly. The hostage was unharmed, but the heavy metal community was forever changed. Dimebag's death left a gaping hole in the world of rock. Fans mourned the loss of a musician who had defined a genre, a man whose passion and talent were felt by everyone who saw him play. In the years since, Dimebag's legacy has only grown, remembered by those who loved him, not only for his music, but for the kindness and dedication he showed to his fans. He was taken too soon, but his influence, that will never fade. Number 4. Andrés Escobar. Andrés Escobar, a talented soccer player known as the Gentleman of the Field. As a defender and captain for the Colombian national team, Andrés was respected both on and off the pitch. He played with grace and humility, embodying the spirit of fair play and good sportsmanship, a rare quality in the high-stakes world of international soccer. But in 1994, one tragic moment would change everything. It was the World Cup, and Colombia, considered a dark horse for the championship, was facing off against the United States. With everything on the line, tensions were high. Then, in a single heartbreaking moment, Andrés accidentally deflected the ball into his own net, resulting in an own goal that contributed to Colombia's 2-1 loss. The team was eliminated from the tournament, and a wave of disappointment swept over Colombia. Though it was an honest mistake, a misstep in the heat of the game, many fans saw it as a national tragedy. Andrés, ever the gentleman, returned to Colombia, hoping to move forward. But resentment simmered. On July 2nd, just 10 days after the match, Andrés went out with friends in Medellin. As he left a bar in the early morning hours, a group of men began taunting him about the own goal. The situation quickly escalated, and in a violent, senseless act, one of the men, Humberto Muñoz, pulled out a gun and shot Andrés 6 times. He was only 27 years old. Colombia, a country already plagued by violence and held hostage by powerful drug cartels, was shaken to its core. Just a year before, the notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar had been gunned down, symbolizing a moment of possible change for the country. But the murder of Andrés Escobar underscored the dark reality of a nation grappling with turmoil. Though unrelated to Pablo, Andrés's death became a grim symbol of the brutality that permeated the country. Humberto Muñoz was eventually sentenced to 42 years in prison for the killing, though he served only 11. He refused to implicate those who may have ordered the attack, leaving many questions unanswered. To this day, Andrés Escobar is remembered as a national hero, a man who represented the best of Colombian soccer. His tragic death is honored every year, not only in Colombia, but by soccer fans worldwide who continue to celebrate his legacy and mourn the loss of a true gentleman taken by the senseless violence of a game gone too far. Number 3. Christina Grimmie. Christina Grimmie, a young rising star with a voice that captivated millions. She gained fame on YouTube, where her heartfelt renditions of popular songs quickly built a devoted fan base. Later, her talent took her to the national stage as a contestant on The Voice, where she finished in 3rd place in the show's 6th season. Christina's future seemed incredibly bright. She was beloved by fans, respected by her peers, and on the verge of an incredible career. On June 10, 2016, after a concert at the Plaza Live in Orlando, Florida, Christina took time to meet her fans, greeting them with her characteristic warmth and openness. Among the crowd was 27-year-old Kevin James Loibl, a man who had developed a disturbing fixation on her. According to Loibl's only friend, Corey Dennington, Loibl had spent hours watching Grimmie's YouTube videos, following her every move on social media. He became obsessed, going to great lengths in the hopes of making himself someone she would notice. He had undergone LASIK surgery, dental work, hair implants, and even lost weight. All in a misguided attempt to make himself worthy of her. Lobel's fascination with Christina extended beyond her music. He started to embrace religion because of her, hoping it would somehow bring them closer. However, this obsession was far from healthy. Dennington mentioned that Lobel would get defensive and angry when anyone suggested that his dreams of a relationship with Christina were unrealistic. On that fateful night, Lobel joined the line of fans waiting to meet Christina. Unbeknownst to anyone, he had managed to sneak in 2 guns and a hunting knife. When he reached the front of the line, Christina, ever kind, opened her arms for a hug. In that moment, Lobel raised his gun and shot her. Christina's brother, who was nearby, immediately tackled Lobel, but before he could be restrained, Lobel turned the gun on himself, ending his life on the spot. Christina was rushed to the hospital, but despite the doctor's efforts, she was later pronounced dead. She was only 22 years old. The tragedy left fans and friends grappling with the senselessness of her death. No one could understand why Lobel, so infatuated with Christina, chose to end her life. Dennington speculated that Lobel's anger and frustration over the impossibility of his imagined relationship with Christina might have driven him to this devastating act. The loss of Christina Grimmie was felt deeply by her fans, her family, and the music community. She was a shining talent, taken far too soon, her kindness and warmth remembered just as much as her incredible voice. Her legacy lives on, in the music and memories she left behind. A bright light extinguished by the darkness of an obsession turned deadly. Number 2. Rebecca Schaeffer. Rebecca Schaeffer, a young actress with a bright future, adored for her role on the popular sitcom My Sister Sam. In the late 1980s, Rebecca was on the cusp of stardom, her charm and talent winning her a growing fan base. But in a tragic turn, her life was cut short by an obsessed fan, leading to legal changes that would alter the way society approached stalking and privacy forever. Robert John Bardo, a young man with a troubled past, became infatuated with Rebecca after watching her on My Sister Sam. His fascination with her grew, and he began writing letters, pouring his feelings onto the page. To his surprise, Rebecca responded to one of his letters, thanking him with a kind note and signing it with a heart and peace sign. It was a simple gesture of gratitude, but for Bardo, it was something much deeper, a perceived connection that ignited a dangerous obsession. Bardo attempted to meet Rebecca in person on 2 separate occasions, showing up at the studio where My Sister Sam was filmed, but each time he was turned away. His frustration simmered, but his fixation only grew stronger. When he saw her appear in a movie role with a love scene, Bardo became enraged, feeling betrayed by the image he had created of her in his mind. Determined to confront Rebecca, Bardo paid a private investigator $250 to locate her address, which he obtained through the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, an alarming loophole that was legal at the time. On July 18, 1989, Bardo showed up at her Los Angeles apartment. When Rebecca answered the door, she greeted him politely, but Bardo became upset as their brief interaction soured. When she told him he was wasting her time, he felt rejected and humiliated, and in a moment of rage, he pulled out a gun and shot her at point-blank range before fleeing the scene. Rebecca was just 21 years old. Bardo was later apprehended, convicted of her murder, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the repercussions of Rebecca's tragic death went beyond his conviction. Her murder highlighted the need for stronger protections against stalking and breaches of privacy. California lawmakers quickly passed legislation prohibiting the DMV from releasing personal information to the public, a change known as Rebecca's Law. Her death also led to the creation of the LAPD's Threat Management Unit, the first specialized team dedicated to assessing and handling stalking cases. By 1993, anti-stalking laws had been implemented in all 50 states, inspired by the heartbreakingly preventable loss of Rebecca Schaeffer. Her legacy lives on in these protections, helping countless others avoid similar fates. Her story serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers of unchecked obsession and the powerful changes that can arise in the wake of tragedy. Number 1. John Lennon. John Lennon, a musical icon, a visionary, and a voice for peace. As one of the Beatles and later as a solo artist, Lennon's influence was monumental, reaching beyond music to inspire a movement for harmony and love. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, his life was taken in an act of senseless violence by a man who once idolized him. On December 8, 1980, Lennon was returning home to the Dakota Building in New York City after a long day in the studio with his wife, Yoko Ono. Outside, waiting patiently, was Mark David Chapman, a fan who had traveled from Hawaii to see him. Just hours before, Chapman had approached Lennon for an autograph on his album Double Fantasy, which Lennon signed, unaware that this brief, innocent encounter would soon become part of a tragic final chapter. Later that night, as Lennon and Ono stepped out of their limo, Chapman made his move. Without warning, he raised a gun and fired multiple shots. Lennon, severely injured, was quickly rushed to Roosevelt Hospital in a police car. But the doctor's efforts were in vain. John Lennon was pronounced dead on arrival. He was only 40 years old, leaving a world in mourning. Chapman's motives remain a complex mystery. It's said he was angered by Lennon's comments that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, a remark that had sparked controversy years before. Others speculate that Chapman saw hypocrisy in Lennon's promotion of peace and simplicity while living a life of fame and wealth. But perhaps only Chapman himself truly understands why he killed a man he once admired. Against his lawyer's advice, Chapman pled guilty to second-degree murder, claiming he had reached his decision after hearing voices telling him to take Lennon's life. He was sentenced to 20 years to life, with his petitions for parole denied repeatedly. In recent years, Chapman has expressed remorse for the murder, calling it a selfish act, and acknowledging the pain he caused to Lennon's family, friends, and fans worldwide. Thank you for joining us on Odd Occasions. If you enjoyed this journey into the darker side of fame, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more unsettling stories of the unexpected. Remember, admiration can be powerful, but obsession can be deadly. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious,